There we go. My name is Christina Wolford, the Director of Operations here at the International Biometric Office. I would like to welcome you to today's journal club. Before we start, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. One very important item is to keep your microphone muted. I have unmuted the line, so if you can go in and mute yourself, I will try to do that as well, but we want to avoid as much background noise as possible. As you can see, the ground rules here listed. We always want to keep it simple. We don't need to be too technical. Keep it short. Make your comments concise and to the point. Always speak slowly and clearly. Be constructive. Always respect others. Mute your microphone. The paper and other supporting documents are available in your registration email. This will be recorded and made available afterwards on the IBS website. So if you don't mute your microphone, all the comments and background noise will be recorded. I would now like to hand it over to Jim Todd. He is the Journal Club organizer and chair. He's going to introduce our speaker for today. Jim?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kirsty. And we hope that this journal club is informative and useful, and we all enjoy it. We have the opportunity to network and interact and discuss new statistical issues. We're pleased today to have Inyoung Kim joining us to present her paper, and we'll be leading the discussion on the paper. I'd like to ask all the participants to feel free to engage with the discussion and ask questions. The box on the left there can be used to indicate if you have a question to ask. Let's think about this and how we can apply these methods to our work and work. So there we are. I think I'll hand over the floor to Inyoung Kim now to present her paper, Flexible Variable Selection for Recovering Sparsity in Non-Additive, Nonparametric Models. Inyoung.
Okay, so my name is Inyoung Kim. Right now I'm in the Virginia Tech. It's my great honor to have a chance to present this paper in the IBC Journal Club. And the title of this paper is Flexible Variable Selection for Recovering Sparsity in Non-Additive Nonparametric Model. And this talk is going to follow this outline. I'm going to briefly talk about motivation and the goal of our research. And then I'm going to talk about what's the model description for our motivation. And then I will talk about new method called non-negative carrot on kernel machine approach. And then I will briefly talk about our algorithm and asymptotic property. And then I will share our simulation results and application. And then I will make a final summary. So this work is based on genetic pathway analysis. These pathways are set of genes that serve a particular cellular or physiological function. Pathway-based analysis for identifying a set of related genes has the ability to detect subtle change in expression level, which could not be found using single gene analysis. This result was reported in Musa 2003 Nature Genetics paper. And this paper is containing type 2 diabetes data set. There was 35 subjects, 17 subjects with normal glucose tolerance, 18 subjects with type 2 diabetes mellitus. There was no single gene was found to be statistically significant, but the Musa 2003 reported that genetic pathway-based analysis can detect subtle changes to distinguish this disease and non-disease group. So this is one of the examples of pathway. I want to show you this pathway, how the pathway looks like. The name of this pathway is ATP synthesis pathway. This is one important pathway associated with type 2 diabetes mellitus. And as you see, this pathway containing 5 complexes. Each complex containing protein related with gene. So as you see, genes interact each other in this pathway. They are working together. Interaction among genes are very complicated. It's difficult to model. So this is one of the data set I have. This is also type 2 diabetes mellitus data set. This is gene expression data of 3 selected pathways associated with the type 2 diabetes mellitus. First column represents name of a pathway. Second column represents gene name. N1 through N17 represent 17 subjects. D1 through D18 represent 18 diabetes, type 2 diabetes mellitus subjects. Those numbers are gene expression data from each subject. As you see that some of genes in this gene overlap with the other this gene in this pathway. And also number of genes within a pathway are also varied. So this is one of the pathways, 2 pathways related with align and aspiration pathway. Pathway 4 containing 18 genes, pathway 140 containing 22 genes. In this pathway, about more than 95% of genes are overlap each other. So genes within the same pathway do not function alone. Genes within the same pathway are expected to function together and hence may interact with each other. And modeling and analyzing pathway gene expression data are statistically challenging because genes within the same pathway are often highly correlated, high dimensional. And pathway parametric model and additive model may not be appropriate because of unknown high order interaction. So the connection between clinical outcome and gene expression is hard to quantify. This pathway-based analysis have been used in several papers. Liu and Mighty and Lin developed a score test for identifying overall pathway effect and detecting a gene effect in the presence of a possible gene-gene interaction on the P less than N case. Here, P is the number of variables, N is the number of sample size. Wang further developed this idea for gene-environment interaction. Kim Cheng developed a test procedure on the Bayesian model framework on the P rather than N case. Kim developed a statistical property on semi-parametric deviation for evaluating pathway effect on the P less than N case. So they focus on testing, not the variable selection. So let's review what kind of methods, variable selection methods are available now. So first is lasso. Lasso is the very popular variable selection using the linear model case and additive parametric model structure. SPAN is the more like extended version of lasso, but this method is based on generalized additive model. COSO approach is also similar to the SPAN, but this COSO can add interaction between 2 variables, but the interaction term we can add more component-wise. There is another variable selection called linear non-negative Garrett approach. This is similar to the lasso, but this method can do variable selection through the Garrett parameter oxide. Another variable selection called functional ANOVA model, and this is also extended version of linear non-negative Garrett for generalized additive model structure. As you see, all of variable selection methods are all based on additive model. So most variable selection approaches are performed in terms of function component selection. So modeling the function component additively and then select component. Those methods are COSO method, SPAN method, Banish approach. However, When the number of input variables is large and their interactions are complicated, modeling each interaction term is extremely expensive, and this function component approach may not be efficient. So our goal is to propose a new method called non-negative carrot using kernel machine approach. In our approach, we didn't specify the model structure between y and input variable x. The model between output variable y, input variable x, we model using the black box. In this black box, maybe x variables are very, very complicated interaction to each other. Maybe there is interaction y and x we cannot quantify. So we model between y and x as a black box. So we can estimate such a nonparametric function estimation f. In addition, we also incorporate some other the variable. This variable is more like a non-negative carrot variable. Each variable x have a carrot variable psi. If this psi equals 0, then we didn't select such a variable x. If psi is not 0, we would like to select such a variable through our model. So advantage of our approach is that it's quite flexible. We can model for additive or non-additive nonlinear function, and we can also improve the consistency, and we can also make this method work P rather than N case. So our goal is to develop variable selection procedure for highly correlated variable selection under non-additive nonparametric model. We also would like to automatically model unknown and uncomplicated interaction. We can also provide flexibility for both additive and non-additive nonparametric model. We want to provide flexibility for both parametric and nonparametric model. This means if there is no complicated interaction or nonparametric model, our model automatically becomes additive model or parametric model. We also would like to make our variable selection method for recovering sparsity in non-additive and nonparametric model with high dimensional variables. This problem becomes even more complicated because there is very unknown interaction among high dimensional variables. Again, current existing variable selection methods are all based on additive model. However, our model is not an additive model. So I will explain further our model description in the next page. So let's consider we have n observation, p predictor data set. X represents n by p matrix. X sub j is n by 1 vector for the j predictor. We assume that our function lies in the reproducing Hilbert space. According to the reproducing kernel theorem, nonparametric regression model can be expressed as this. So nonparametric function f of x can be expressed as k times alpha. Here k is the kernel matrix and corresponding to the function space generated by positive definite kernel function. This k is also known as the gram matrix of the kernel function. So using this model framework, we can estimate alpha is estimated by solving the least square kernel machine, which minimizes this objective function. And this lambda 0, there is a penalty term here, lambda 0. This lambda 0 is represent smoothing parameter that balance trade-off between goodness of fit and smoothing curve for high-dimensional surface. So using this penalized objective function, we can estimate unknown function f through the k function. So using this objective function, we cannot do variable selection yet. We can only estimate function f. So now I'm going to talk about more on our kernel function. So here, our fx can be expressed as k times alpha, and k can represent like this n by n matrix. Again, we input x is n by p matrix. But if we use this representative theorem, we can express our f using n by n matrix. So p dimension goes into this each component. P information goes to this component, P information goes to this component, P information goes to this component. So this K matrix is n by n matrix. So that's the advantage. So I will talk about more in this K matrix. So the corner matrix is a function of a similarity between two observations. This similarity can be created using distance or angle. The similarity matrix between x and x prime can be either negative squared Euclidean distance or angle. So this capital D to the J is a similarity matrix with the KL's entry as the distance or inner product between two observations of the J's variable. So the entry of this D to the J matrix is DKLJ. This is the entry of KS entry of D matrix. This entry can be created using linear polynomial kernel. This entry can create using the Euclidean distance for using Gaussian kernel. So if we use this polynomial kernel, then gram matrix by dot product x transpose x prime among observation can be expressed as this. So this K can be expressed as this inner product, but there is another parameter rho. We can estimate this rho. This type of a kernel can be used if we wanna make a function as additive nonparametric model case. If we use Gaussian kernel, the gram matrix by Euclidean distance among observation can be expressed as using this exponential function. There is another parameter rho is there, and this type of kernel function can be used for non-additive nonparametric modeling. So to do variable selection, we introduce non-negative scale parameter xi with this xi j corresponding to each predict x sub j. So by adding this xi into this kernel inside, we do variable selection through this xi j. This xi j we can treat as a coefficient of matrix D sub j. Dj is the similarity matrix with the KS entry as the distance or inner product. So I'm going to expand the kernel matrix at K as like this. So inside of this K, this is n by n matrix, this is n by n matrix. This n by n matrix we create using the n subject for given first variable. So here, this 1 represents first variable. This is 1 represents first row, first column of this n by n entry. So you can guess if all of value in this similarity matrix are very, very similar to each other, the meaning is this variable is not important variable. This variable cannot be used to identify disease group or non-disease group. In that case, we hope this xi becoming 0. In this n by n matrix, is more like similarity matrix. We can create this similarity matrix using n subjects for given piece variables. So if this similarity matrix are very, very different each other, the meaning is this variable is a very important variable to distinguish disease group or non-disease group. In this case, we hope this xi p becomes not 0. So we want to do this kind of variable selection. So, if all variables are equally important, then they become low. However, variables are not equally important within the pathway. So, we want to do kernel matrix entry is a function of a similarity matrix. We want to do variable selection through this xi. So in that case, by incorporating this xi into the K matrix, we need to add one more penalty here. This penalty for variable selection for xi. It's very similar to the L1 penalty, but it's different from the L1 penalty because xi is already positive or equal to 0. First two terms is important to estimate function f through the K. Last penalty term is for variable selection term. So we propose non-negative caret variable selection approach. We denote as NGK using this objective function. So using this objective function, we can recover sparsity of input variable, and also we can do automatically higher the interaction among using the Gaussian kernel. We can also do more general function form including non-additive model and additive model. We can also connect our method to other approach. So our NGK problem can become multiple kernel learning approach. Our approach can connect with automatic relevancy determinant. Our approach with linear kernel becoming functional ANOVA model. Our approach with linear kernel with all xi equal 1 becoming COSO approach. Our approach using linear model with xi, then this model becoming linear non-negative caret approach. So to do variable selection, we propose algorithm. This algorithm is more like a backfitting approach or coordinate descent approach. In the first step, we set all xi become some constant rho. Using this setting, we estimate parameter using least square kernel machine by REML estimation. And then we initialize our tuning parameter lambda, and then we update xi till xi hat coordinate wise, and we can update this coordinate wise fast because we have closed form like this. And then we decrease lambda, and then we stop when the selection criterion reach minimum or last lambda equals 0. So the most important key step is step 3. We update using this form, and this form is easily obtaining using the linear approximation. So in one xi direction, we approximate k by linear order with previous updated xi till, and using this linear approximation, we add this approximation into this k optimization function, and then we calculate gradient, and then we solve the gradient value, then we can easily obtain this formula. So we have more like a closed form solution. Because of this closed form solution, our algorithm works well for P larger than NK. It is equivalent to least angle regression selection for functional ANOVA when the kernel is additive model case. It works well for non-additive model using Gaussian kernel. And we can also show that under the regularity condition, our NGK estimation is consistent as long as our initial estimation is delta consistent. And we also show that our approach can satisfy this condition. This condition is called incoherent condition. It is very important method satisfied this incoherent condition for recovering sparsity. So now I will explain this condition a little bit more using simulation. So we can generating some data that lasso does not satisfy this incoherent condition. And in this case, we generating only 3 variables. This setting is from the Zhao and Liu setting. We generate the IID random sample x1, x2 here. But we generating x3 variable using x1, x2, and we set this coefficient A and B like this, and we generating Y only using x1, x2. So the meaning is beta 3 should be 0. Beta 1, beta 2 should not be 0. Beta 3 should be 0. In this setting, lasso is not satisfy this incoherent condition. So left figure left figure we got from the solution path using lasso. Right side figure we obtaining from using our approach. As you see that in this graph, in this figure, beta 3 should not be 0. When we use our criterion using in this range, for example, we set this range, then always we select beta 3 is the important variable. If we set in this area, again, beta 3 is not 0. If we set in this range, then beta 3 also select. Most of all cases, beta 3 are important variable was selected using lasso. However, our approach we set our variable in this range, and we always select beta 1 is not 0, beta 2 is not 0, beta 3 is 0. So in our solution path, we always select these 2 variables important, but beta 3 is we set as 0. We estimate beta 3 is 0. So that's why our NGK can recover sparsity. However, lasso cannot in this setting. How we select the tuning parameter? We use this BIC criteria. Then I will share some additional simulation study. Our first simulation setting, we consider N larger than P. We consider N is 64, 128, 256. We consider total number of variables is 10, but true signal we only have 5. And using this function, we generating Y. So we expect our approach can identify only 5 true variables. So in this solution path, we select our tuning here. Those are all 5 variables we identify as important variables. So here is a table comparing with our NGK approach with the COSO approach. COSO performed quite well in terms of variable selection, in terms of false positive, false negative, another size at RSS. But we can see that COSO has a large mean square error comparing to our 2 approach. Here, what is the mean square minimum is here. Mean square error is the sum of square of difference between true F and estimated F. So our approach has less mean square error than Corso approach. So all three methods have good performance in terms of variable selection. However, when sample size is large, NGK perform better than Corso in terms of mean square error. And also, NGK with Gaussian kernel is considered to be the best method because it performs as well as the other method in terms of false negative, false positive, but also because it has the best estimation accuracy. Here is another simulation case. P is larger than N case. Still, we have 5 true signal variables. We select our tuning in here. We select those variables that are significant. Those variables are important variables. And in this case, we also compare our approach with Lasso. In terms of variable selection, Lasso performed very well. But however, this Lasso has a larger mean square error value comparing to ours. And when P larger than NK, we were not able to compare our approach with Corso because Corso does not work well because of numerical problem. Performance of Lasso was pretty good in terms of false positive and false negative. And Lasso provides a larger RSS and mean square error. This result means that Lasso works well for variable selection with less accurate function estimation. And also, estimated model size using Lasso is smaller than the true one. We also compare with our approach, two approaches, NGK with Gaussian kernel, NGK with polynomial kernel. To compare with this, we also calculate selection probability of each predictor using commutation. So, using NGK with Gaussian kernel, selection probability of true signal almost 1. The selection probability is almost 1 using Gaussian kernel. But selection probability of those signals using polynomial kernel is about 0.9. So from this, NGK with Gaussian kernel select more accurately than polynomial kernel, although both approaches select those true parameters very well. How we calculate this selection probability using this permutation? We permute residual by fitting this model, and then we generating Y star using this new residual, and then using this permuted value, we select, we calculate the variable, we save the variable, and then we do this permute about 3,000 times, and then we obtaining empirical probability or frequency of selection, selecting each variable. And then we apply our approach to the several pathways. One pathway is 133 pathway, oxidative phosphorylation pathway. In this pathway, there is a sample size is 35, P is 58. We have a tuning parameter here, and then we identify those variables are important. Those variables are important. How many variables we select? We select 13 variables we select. And then we further calculate selection probability for all variables. And selection probability threshold is 0.6. And then we identify 9 variables as important variables. We also apply our approach to the pathway 4 and 140. those pathways are about 95 overlap genes between two pathways. First, we apply our approach to the pathway 4. In this pathway, 18 genes there. We select tuning parameter here. We identify this number of variables are important. How many variables we select? 7 variables are selected. And then we further calculate selection probability. And then we use selection probability threshold is 0.6. We only identify 5 as important variables. We also apply our approach to the pathway 140. Same procedure. We identify 9 variables are important. And then we further calculate selection probability. Selection probability threshold is 0.6. And then we only select 3 variables are important variables. Again, selection probability we calculate through this permutation. Here, so left figure is from the pathway 133. Right side graph is using both pathway 140 and pathway 4. Selection probability, we cut 0.6 here. Using this 0.6, only those variables are important variables. We identify 9 variables are important variables. Here, so this is both pathway 140 and 4. Those 3 variables are overlap genes between two pathways. They are all not important variables. However, gene 5, especially this gene 5 is not overlap gene. This gene 5 only shows in pathway 140, but this gene is very, very important variable which is selected using our method. Here, gene 8. Gene 8 is overlap gene between 140 and 4, but this gene 8 is a very important variable in pathway 4, but this is not important variable in pathway 140. And gene 10, 11, 12, we select those are important variables in pathway 4, but they are not important variable in pathway 140. Gene 21 is an important variable both pathway 140 and 40 and 4 case. So here is the summary of our type 2 diabetes analysis case. Number of genes in each pathway 133, 144, 4 are 58, 22, 18. We identify 13 pathway is important pathway in pathway 133. By using threshold 0.6, we identify 9 is important variables. And 140 and 4, using selection probability, we identify 3 and 5 are important variables. In gene 5 does not appear in pathway 4. Gene 5 is present in pathway 140. The selection probability of 8, 10, 11 are smaller than in pathway 4. This may indicate that some possible interaction or correlation may occur between gene 5A and gene segment. We also apply our approach to the another application data. This data we collect from the side channel analysis. The goal is to select key selection for cryptograph data. The data, this analysis is technique of cryptanalysis with an attacker estimate the secret key based on information gained from the physical implementation of a cryptograph algorithm. The response is power consumption, has a nonlinear relationship with variable, encoded text. this data is larger sample size and higher high-dimensional data P. So in this case, we have sample size is 5,120. P variable is 4096. We do resampling approach, and then we calculate selection probability. We use selection criterion selection probability is criterion is 0.6. We identify this 16 important signal key. So we select this 16 key using is almost probability 1. So we propose our variable selection for highly correlated variable on the non-additive and non-parametric model. Advantage of our approach is that it can recover sparsity of input variable. We can automatically model unknown and complicated interaction, can connect with other approach, and we can also provide flexibility for both additive and non-additive non-parametric models. And thank you, and feel free to give me questions.
Thank you very much, Inyoung. Thank you for your presentation. I must admit that it's not an area that I'm familiar with, and you going through it like that made it a lot clearer to me. I thank you very much again for your presentation. I've got a few slides which maybe are very simplistic, but I think I'll just use them to see whether we can start the discussion. I think if anyone has a question, they should raise their hand or put their question, say that they have a question in the box at the bottom left, and then we'll ask you after I've just said a few words about discussant. As I say, this is not a topic where I am very familiar with the methods, and I think that you've explained them in a very good way. Most of the applications I'm familiar with is where we have a lot more observations than parameters, and we can just estimate the parameters from the data using conventional methods. And so, very simplistic methods to determine whether we include variables in the model. But like you say, when you have these more complex and larger data sets where you have data sparsity, the number of observations are quite few and the number of parameters is a lot, then these methods maybe don't work, and we must have some data-driven ways of selecting the variables for inclusion in our model. And although I've come across some of these methods for use with big data and dimensional data, such as lasso, I have not really understood exactly how they work. So thank you very much for highlighting some of those things during the course of your presentation. Okay. Now, as you said, some of these methods are specific or applicable to specific types of analysis. And from what I understood is they're probably not possible to be used with other types of analysis. But there again, there's extensions to these going on all the time. So I'm sure that there's new ways of doing this. And one of the ways that you've mentioned today, the non-negative Garrot kernels, it seems to be a very interesting and useful way of making these variable selection choices much clearer. As you say, it's applicable to all Gaussian kernels, it's applicable to linear polynomials of predictors, and we're using this distance function, which is subject to the constraints as I understand it. So it's not really, it's really of value when we only have, we have lots of parameters that we could put in there, and it's trying to work out which ones are crucial to our model. And as I understand it, it's optimized by using starting values for psi close to 0. And this is especially so if we have higher order interactions or correlated explanatory variables, as you've demonstrated in your things. And as you say again, the variable selection is separate to or different from the estimation process, and that I think is something that I hadn't understood or totally worked out before this, and thank you for explaining that. And perhaps you might like to explain that a little bit more in the discussion, something that is good. Okay. And so the question is, we choose some values for psi, and we then fit some least squares kernel to that, and we use a smoothing parameter to work out exactly how these should be put together, and then we may use some permutation methods as well. But the evaluation, as I understand it there, using your simulated data, is looking at the false positives and the false negatives for the parameters that are in the model. How many of them should really be in the model, and how many of them should not be in the model. And as you say, all of these different methods work quite well, but under what conditions do some methods work better than others? And this is different for the different methods you presented, lasso or the non-negative Garot kernels and other methods there. But I'm still not quite sure as to what you would recommend for using when certain conditions are there, when you have large data or large number of parameters or a large number of observations. Okay, my final slide before I let others ask some questions is which methods should we use, which is what I mentioned before, which are best for which conditions. Also, I'd like to ask you about the statistical software that's available for fitting these variable selection models. Is it easily available? Is it, what would you recommend as the statistical software for fitting these kind of variable selection models? What is criteria? Is there a criteria that we should use, or is it criteria that we should make up for each of our, depending on our questions there? Another question I had there is, can we force, particularly if we know that one of those genes has been shown to be associated with the outcome in other studies, can we force that particular variable into the model, or should we let the model just take its consequence and hopefully come up with that particular variable in its place? How many variables should be selected? And I think you dealt with that in the end using the BIC, the Bayesian information criteria. And then how is the variable selection then related to the significance of the estimated effects in the final model? Is there a relationship between variable selection there and the significance of our final effects in the final model? So those are my questions. Do you want to say something to those now, Young, and then we'll see whether anyone else has any questions in a minute.
Okay. So for your first question, for large data and high dimensional case, which method should be used? So because we developed this method, we recommend you guys use our method. In the case, the data is very highly correlate each other. So like a pathway type of data, it's known that they're working together. Variables are highly correlate each other. So to me, so I know this background. So in this case, I not recommend to use like a lasso type of approach. But in our simulation study, lasso performed quite well, even though I generating the data from the complicated model. But then I realized that my simulation setting is very similar to the linear type of setting. So because if I'm looking at some of my simulation setting, the cosine function, sine functions is more like linear. In the case, x is between 0 to 1 case. So I guess my simulation is very similar to the linear structure, although it looks like a linear structure, complicated interaction. So in the case, now my approach is very similar to the lasso case. So that's my suggestion. So if you are strong believer on the data is highly correlated interaction each other, then I suggest you use I hope the user use my method, our NDK method. So which are the best for which condition? So which condition is really depending on the real data analogy. So, and also, how can this be assessed using statistical software? So our approach, we already developed this method using ALP. We didn't develop ALP package yet, but this program is available in the Biometrics the website. So we include some simulation study, and we also explain how to generate the data set, and everyone can download this program and you can use. And also, what criteria should be used for evaluating final model? Final model is based because we validate our approach with some simulation study. However, simulation in the simulation we know the truth, so we cannot use false positive, false negative structure. So that's why we calculate selection probability. So using selection probability for each, so we calculate selection probability for each variable. We calculate how many times each variable select through the permutation, and then so in our case we use criterion is 0.6, but this criterion we choose because using the cross validation. So using the cross validation, we choose 0.6, and then we do the select variable, and then we made the final conclusion for our analysis. So we hope, even though permutation is computationally very difficult, intensive, but if we want to make a clear and we want to make some further clear conclusion, then it's better to use this permutation approach. And also, another question from you is variable selected may depend on question being asked. Can we force particular variable into the model to assess the effect? I think this is possible because in this case, we didn't specify the getter parameter considered to this specific parameter. So, meaning is we can say that some of variables are very important variables. We don't want to do variable selection for such particular variable. Then we don't need to put xi to this particular variable. And then we fix those variables is always selected, and then we do variable selection for other cases. And also, so in the case we can evaluate whether given this particular variable is in the model and how these variables interact with other variables, and we can do variable selection, other variables which is highly interact with this particular variables without specifying those xi variables into these particular variables. So number of variables selected is really depending on. So we didn't. When we do our variable selection, we didn't specify number of variables selected. However, we can set this number of variables select by using this criterion. If we use criterion is very high, instead of 0.6 probability, maybe we can say 0.9. Then we can have less number of variables selected. But if we want to allow more variables, then we can make the criterion is low, then we can have more variable select. And last question is, how is variable selection related to the significance of estimate effect in the final model? I think this is a very good question. Right now, we only develop variable selection. So even though we select a variable, it doesn't mean this variable is significant in terms of, because we didn't do officially testing. So right now, we are also developing testing procedure with the variable selection together, but we are still working on this significance test. So I think this is my answer to this question. Is it?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, for the answering my questions. I didn't. I thought some of them might not have been that sensible, but I think you did well to provide a sensible answer to them all. Thank you very much. Anyone else have a question that they'd like to put to Inyoung? Haven't had any comments down here in the left-hand lower left-hand box, but if anyone has any questions, that's there. Feel free. We've got a couple of minutes left to say, yep. No, okay. Well, the recording, I think, Kirsty, the recording of this will be available. So if anyone has anything that they want to go back over, that's fine. And if you do have any questions, feel free to email Inyoung about this, because her email is also on the paper. And so we're very grateful for her to present this work and to open my mind, at least, to the way that variable selection can be done with these large data sets and large number of parameters that need to be estimated. Final chance for anyone to ask a question. If not, I shall close the session, and thank you very much for joining this Journal Club. The next one is going to be on April the 11th at the same time, which is 1500 GMT. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Inyoung.